Mr. Gregson, thanks for coming on. I've been looking forward to this episode. We're going to start with a really simple question. How long have you worked for the government?
Since 2008. So I started at the IRS and then now at DHS.
IRS?
Yeah.
That's a very popular position.
I'm popular all around. I pick all the agencies that end up in the news or that everybody's talking about.
So the other one was N8, would you say?
DHS.
DHS.
Yeah.
DHS. What does that stand for?
Department of Homeland Security.
So your job has been pretty, I would guess, and you don't have to say anything about it, but interesting over the last 4+ years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I find interesting things to do in my job or research about or whatever. So it keeps me busy.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
How did you first hear about KOMA?
Well, I went out looking for it, actually. So my first experience is with your father, and that was about 1985. And my dad found Grandmaster Ko and in Independence, Missouri. And I had such an experience in that character development, discipline, and made a major impact on my life. So I went looking for it as soon as I had a kid. I was like, he needs this.
So then you and your father did it under my father.
Yes.
How long did you guys do it for?
And my brother.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Older, younger?
Younger.
Okay.
So we did it for at least 5 years. Took off, I think, a year or two, and then followed up another year.
Why'd your dad have you guys do it or start it?
So he wanted us to be exposed to martial arts in general, and he was trying to find particular individuals that were closer to the origin of the art. So if it was Taekwondo or Judo or Ryukyu Kempo, that he found individuals that were skilled and then also, closer to the origin.
So he wanted a Korean for Taekwondo. He wanted a Japanese for karate, and he wanted a Chinese guy for Kung Fu.
Yes, and that's how it happened.
I can say it because I'm half Asian.
Yeah.
Half Korean at least. But so then why did he want you guys doing martial arts? Do you know why? Self-defense or?
It was about the structure and discipline. So it wasn't just it. And he wanted the philosophy about it, around it. And that's why he went for people that were more closer to the origin, because you can just go to any dojo or whatever else and you just get somebody that's more into the sport. So Taekwondo being an Olympic sport, Judo being an Olympic sport. Some people are just focused on like technique and drill. And without the philosophy and character behind it, you don't get the essence and the kind of the spirit behind it.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but it's a bit more than just the action.
What was he doing as a profession?
He was a respiratory pulmonary therapist at the time, and then he became a history professor and then a medical doctor. He just loves school.
It's crazy. The amount of physicians and I would say intellectual people that have brought their kids here or actually became students themselves over the years. And then I've even seen with my father's studio way back then. I don't know what it is. Engineers, doctors, it's like some sort of analytical thing that people are, I don't know. It's like that's how their mind is and they're attracted to martial arts. Yep. Maybe the discipline and the structure, like you said.
Well, you have to develop the discipline, and that's just it's an easy word. So some people get hung up on like a modern connotation, but discipline is just the structure and
Preservation.
Yeah. That you can complete hard tasks. It's not an immediate thing, especially with our current distractions and such, that, there's a goal and that it's not going to happen overnight, and then you develop it. So also through my experience, it's simple techniques, or it's kind of back to the basics. You get those basics and a great foundation, and then you become excellent. So it's wonderful when you have a thing that you're repetitive on the basics.
Yep. So do you have any memories that stand out when you were a student under my father?
Well, several, but the big thing is that we were actively included in the classes, and so even as a kid, I saw adults, doing it as well.
It was mostly adults back then.
It was mostly adults. Yeah, it wasn't a kid thing. That was another thing. The concept, like all the Taekwondo, places have it as a kid activity, pretty much.
That's the way it is now.
Yeah, way it is. Yeah, and it's proven. It's scientifically proven to be good for kids.
Yes.
And back then, it was like adult clubs.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris.
That's right.
So
the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be a memory that stands out that was there any painful memories?
Oh, well.
Because I have many.
Yeah.
And even, do you have any comedic memories? Because I have a lot of those too.
There was always, as the instruction went, there was touching was fine because you got placed in proper technique. You got smacked on the back of the head all the time, but that was just kind of like, you're not doing it right. Just pay attention and focus. And even that's without the iPhone. Like I had at least a microwave attention span, but and not a TikTok one. So we're gonna have to work on that. But let's see. And my brother relayed one to me recently. I was like, oh, my kid's going to KOMA and things like that. And he's like, yeah, he told me, that I should listen, or he would, make me listen, or maybe borrow my ear. So things like that. And the first thing that came out of his mouth that it was an absolutely wonderful experience, that it was, like I consider your father as one of my main mentors growing up. So yeah, it kind of shapes your character, the way you conduct yourself.
Well, because obviously he was very strict, and
Yeah.
he had high expectations, and discipline that's just the foundation of the class. Was there anything else that he did that made you say that he was a mentor?
It was expectations. So he didn't let a lot slide. You went from doing a technique, and then you didn't pass if you didn't. Like you were just there, and you mastered just a sidekick, and then you could go on. So it seemed like a long process as a kid. It probably was a little bit more normal, but as a kid, it's very impactful. We got like a tenets of Taekwondo.
Yeah. Courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and dominant spirit. Sir!
Yes!
I still remember that. Oh my gosh, he ingrained it in me.
Yeah. So we got that, and that was taken home. There was still interaction a lot with with your parents. So respecting your parents was a huge message as well. And then, you always, and I heard in a previous video is that sometimes kids don't want to go.
Yeah.
And that's normal. And it's fighting through I really don't want to go because it's hard and I'm a kid and I don't have that self-discipline to just do it. And as soon as, and it's like school, you have to go to school too.
Right.
But as soon as you're there and you're doing it, it's fine. Mm-hmm. It's great. Mm-hmm. And then, it same thing as adults going to the gym.
No difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you get all the benefits from, exercise to discipline. It's just like, it's the good diet and everything else. It's just initially, your mind doesn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Sitting on that couch playing video games and eating, processed fatty foods is an enjoyable, experience. But man, do you feel good after that exercise class or getting up and actually doing what, is good for you. Mm-hmm. And it clears your mind, makes you all, better.
So were there any lessons that you took away from the experience of training under my father and with your father that then you used for school, for personal life, or even your professional life?
Yeah, absolutely. And from the self-discipline of mastering, taking steps. So no matter what you do in life, it's a project, it's a multi-step situation. And focusing on the first thing right now and just doing that. So especially, he made it easy in that you just focused on this mm-hmm. and didn't give you, hey, you have to memorize, or do all of this in a particular time period. And then the perseverance of doing hard things, mm-hmm. Sometimes it felt hard, but you got really good at it. And then it was easy. So, and that's just every skill in life. And that's how easy it is to apply to every aspect of your life. From, most people are not good at drawing, and you have a stick figure. Well, after a while, it becomes something else, and now you're like drawing portraits.
Right.
And at every aspect of life, and also you'll learn this as having kids, you have to learn everything. Like, you don't know anything. If you encounter somebody and they're a little bit rude or they don't know how to do something, it's because they didn't learn. Like,
yeah,
you're a blank slate, and it's going through that process. And if you can do it by yourself, you don't have to be taught it. Like, you can, like in school, you can research. You want to know something, and you research it.
Especially today.
Yeah.
And especially today.
There's tons of
We have no reason. Nobody has any reason to not learn the thing they're wanting to learn, other than themselves. The resources are theirs. Just one word: YouTube.
Oh yeah,
literally everything's on YouTube now.
You can know more than a master or a PhD.
Yeah.
From the information that's out there,
yeah.
And that taking Taekwondo gave me the structure and the discipline to pursue.
Yes.
Pretty much everything in life. It's like sticking at it. Don't just read the headline kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it really is going to go back to what you were talking about with learning about the importance of perseverance. And especially today, even specifically, the way my father taught would not last 1 month here. The business would have to shut down. And I've had to adapt to mm-hmm. the students of today. Because if I did not, we would not be in business. And most importantly, it's not just about business, it's about being effective, mm-hmm. right? And the kids today are just different than when we grew up. And if I took the approach of my father, which was basically do this or you're going to go on knuckle push-up position, and I'm going to hit. My brother and I remember this very clearly in the living room. Our punishment was knuckle push-ups, and he got a broomstick and was then hitting our legs out of anger. But we deserved it because we didn't listen. He kept telling us over and over again, we didn't listen, so we deserved that. But today, not only would that be probably illegal, but then it's just not effective, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it was effective, but it was effective for my brother and I.
Yeah. But we were. I mean,
more of the knuckle push-ups and the correction. It was nice to get bopped on the head when your leg wasn't that high. It
was nice.
Yeah, it was.
You thought that at that age? Oh, this is nice as you're rubbing
your
head out of pain.
I was. Well, you didn't know. You didn't know you weren't doing it right. It was a reminder that you had.
But in the moment, you didn't think this is nice.
No, I was. No, it wasn't. Even sparring wasn't fun for the first bit.
Oh my goodness! So
because
no hogus, so no chest guards.
No.
We had cloth leg pads. Do you remember this? Cloth leg pads would end up stinking because it would just absorb the sweat.
Yes.
And then arm pads. And not even headgear yet. That was it.
Well, only if you were serious.
Which, by the way, this is one of the headgear from back when you were training is my father's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So to go with that, with sparring and everything else, the only people that I've encountered in my life in Taekwondo that does no contact sparring correctly is trained by your dad. That's where that discipline came from. People you could feel the disappointment when they made contact on a no contact sparring in class.
So it was very much controlled.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was no contact. You could be a foot away, but no contact. And if you got really good, you could get an inch away. But if you screwed up, you got that class kind of oh, you messed up.
Yeah.
You need to control yourself better.
Yeah.
And I took Taekwondo in college, and I took it at a different studio because it wasn't available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
I went to UMKC.
Where did you train then?
I trained at JUCO.
Who was teaching?
I don't remember.
Wow.
It was back in 2000.
And what did that feel like? What was the difference?
It was the sport mentality.
Okay. So for those who are listening and they hear that, describe the difference between when you say sport and then the way that you learned under my father.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the sport mentality that I'm referencing is, it's like reading a book and doing it. You have the technique, you have this is how you do, a side kick, how you do a punch. That's correct, technically. But it doesn't have the long-term foundations in that, it's like kids learning karate off of a movie. That same kind of mentality.
No philosophy.
No, not at all.
Yeah. No philosophy, no history.
No.
There's not really anything other than the techniques itself.
Yeah. And my best friend learned Taekwondo somewhere else. And he ended up breaking the guy's ribs on non-contact sparring.
Yeah.
Because the guy moved the wrong, into his kick, and it just happened. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't even fathom that. So I was like, no, he didn't have, the discipline, not only, mentally, but it's knowing where your body is.
Yeah.
And understanding, you don't just let go. I'm like, okay, I'm going to punch and I'm just going to punch as hard as I can. Well, if you're not mentally like directing your body. Oh, also learning how to spar as well. You know, like taking the whole body in concept. So you're looking at shoulders or whatever. You're not just, you know, looking for the punch.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And also I got really good at sports. I was a clumsy little kid. I tripped over my feet all the time. And after going to Taekwondo, and this could be, you know, one of those motivations for my mom is like, you need something that, you know, like, so you know where you are. Like your limbs are everywhere. But I would trip over, you know, myself in soccer and basketball, and I got much better. I did not fall after Taekwondo.
Taekwondo gives, I think, some of the best training for footwork, especially since we train barefoot. And studies are coming out, study after study, about the importance of being barefoot as much as possible. Shoes are a crutch, and they make us very weak from our hips all the way down. And it just leads to negative consequences. You look at people in the tribes, then they don't have the same lower back issues that we do as Americans. They're barefoot, and they're always walking, and they're squatting and all that stuff, which that's what we do here too. So I think it's one of those all-encompassing activities. Specifically, obviously I'm a little biased with Taekwondo because that's all I've known, or that's what I grew up with. But I would say Taekwondo and karate too, very similar in comparison, but just an all-around encompassing physical activity, but also for mental and psychological too.
Absolutely.
So then your son is how old?
He is 5 right now.
And then, go ahead.
Yeah, and I have one coming up, so.
Yeah. There you go. So then when you started searching out us and you were in that process, remind me again, why did you want your son in this?
So, well, first, I mean, I thought of my experience. So I wanted him to have some kind of structure. And a parent can't give the discipline like an instructor can. Yeah. You know, like he uses yes, sir, to me occasionally.
He wasn't doing that before you?
No. Yeah, no.
How long has he been here?
About a year and a month or something. No, not even that. Oh my goodness. Like less than 9 months.
When did you start seeing the yes, sir at home? About how many months into it?
Probably 4.
4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was 4 at the time.
Yeah.
Right. And how would you describe him before he started coming here?
He's all over the place. He is a very active boy. He is very social. He has the personality of kind of a class clown, and things like that. And he definitely needed the direction or in a formal environment. And I've put him in Montessori daycare and more formal learning centers and things like that. Yeah. And none of the teachers give any kind of structured environment. I mean, they have structured activities, you know, at certain times or that you need to line up. But teachers, even in elementary school, as you know, I was growing up, do not give you that framework or basically they don't have any expectations. You know, like they're like, do this and I will not have the expectations or show you what that template means.
Why do you think that is so common, especially today?
Well, I think it's the positive parenting movement. It's the we don't want to hurt everybody's feelings. The thing is that a child's perspective shouldn't be accepted as an adult's perspective. They're
because
not the
it's
same.
Not.
Yeah, it's not the same. They don't have the same maturity level.
Yeah.
There's not the internal checks and controls. They're completely reactionary. And sometimes they need boundaries because they don't have any. They're not physically possibly built in yet, and it needs to kind of like be ingrained eventually. That. And then and I wanted to say, so I found you on YouTube and the internet before. So I was looking for your dad's academy because of hearing him going to Overland Park.
Yeah.
And then I found you and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, as long as, he may be getting a little old.
Good enough. Yeah.
So I at least, it's continuing, and there's a place that I can put my kid and get that, get the martial arts, the feedback and the, character. I imagine, a little bit of your dad rubbed off. So
I have to have to kind of filter myself because there's so many times where I'll say things and then I go, oh my goodness, I'm turning into my father.
We all do. But I was massively surprised when we finally got in the door. I mean, you have so many things built into your program, and this is, I'm not trying to be, I'm not saying, because you're in front of me or whatever, but I was truly impressed. And there's so many different layers that you've included in teaching Taekwondo, and you've created, okay, so the program is fully developed. So you've incorporated the principles, the martial art of Taekwondo, but you have a whole nother layer of like mentorship and leadership.
Yeah. And
also community, like all of this is not normal. And then it's an excellent community. It's great to be here. Basically, I'm really glad that my kids can be a part of it because I can see so much growth in it. So I was a Boy Scout as well in the past. So the typical thing of Boy Scouts, you get your Eagle Scout and you're done, basically. Most of the time you don't have anything. And then in most Taekwondo scenarios, you get your black belt, you're done. And that's like half the journey here. Like black belt is just, it develops you, and then you get to develop others and grow after that. So there's it's the other half. There's a large journey after that, which is great.
Yeah. So if you remember, because we were taking class together at the same time. When you started, I was 3, so I didn't start. I started when I was 4, which, by the way, he started me in his office.
Okay.
Like you said, it was all adults.
It was.
And I was so intimidated. You didn't see a lot of 4-year-olds in class. It was mostly adults, so he couldn't get me to go out there.
I was afraid you were going to get kicked. Right.
You were swinging giant tree trunks all over the place, and you had to keep ducking or you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
And he taught me in his office for about a month, and then I eventually made it out there. But we didn't have stripes.
No.
It was just a belt.
Yeah.
And you held that belt for a long time.
You did.
It's like if you didn't have fraying on your belt, you didn't get the next belt. That was the first thing. And as we're sitting here on this carpet, which has no padding, it's commercial carpet and concrete, this is exactly what we trained on.
Yeah.
Which had a lot of negative consequences when a bigger kid kicked you and you hit your head on the ground because we weren't wearing helmets during sparring. And I remember a puddle of sweat underneath my face when I was crying because he put me in knuckle push-ups on this exact same concrete. But guess what happened after that? I didn't do it again.
No.
And it taught me.
It
was obviously I remembered it, right? Because of the pain. But with all that being said, I'll never forget the moment where I was about 16 years old, maybe 17 years old. I was teaching for him. I just started teaching, and I had this idea of we need to make his curriculum more objective-based, which is where the stripes were born.
Okay.
Because it was all about what he felt in the moment of when you get to pass or not. Which, there's some truth to that, right? I like that, but you can't scale that. right? And the second thing was, going back to the leadership, the reason why we have such an emphasis on the journey after black belt, not only for increasing retention, but I've never wanted this to be about me. Back then, it was about my father. If my father wasn't teaching, nobody wanted to do class, right?
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I left because he left. Like he went. I was based in Independence, and then he moved to Overland Park, and I was like,
so that was like 1990. Got it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's what I never wanted, right?
Yeah.
Because I want the program to stand on its own without me driving it. Now, of course, I'm always going to be here kind of overseeing it and pushing it forwards and helping it take the next step for development. But yeah, it's interesting over the years just watching how that's evolved.
I do like the tip system, and that it's, especially for very little kids, they get kind of that mini accomplishment. Also, you've made the parents a partner in the class. Yeah. Like there's homework belts, or stripes.
Yep.
So
the character projects.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of it, there's the whole program's kind of built in that you get the skill and the character, and you're pulling out those values, progressively, which is nice. And it's all, in different, it's well thought out. It's every different aspect. And, it's
about 25 years in the making.
Yes. But a constant, thought about it. It shows, because every single time I turn to something else, it's like well developed.
Why do you think I have no hair?
You've been pulling it out. I do sometimes too.
Yeah, I don't know about pulling, more like falling out. But yeah. Anyways, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. So, how long do you want your son and then your future child to be involved with this?
Well, I want it at least the black belt level, and then mentorship is great. I would love that he would, kind of stay on and be like an assistant instructor through his teenage years.
Why is that important to you?
Well, learning mentorship is an amazing skill. So you don't know anything until you teach it. So, and then the mentorship here is more about community and helping, which is great attributes. I mean, I got it through scouting, but I wish I could have continued my Taekwondo practice throughout my high school and things like that. I switched different things to judo and kung fu and Ryukyu Kempo and things. But it would have been nice to have a constant throughout that whole time.
So you wish you would have stayed training in Taekwondo, and specifically under my father, if you could have.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then also, I think it's a better situation, especially in KOMA, because it's more direct mentorship, where his teaching style and the way it was structured. I mean, I think somebody that went to the Olympics that was under him. I mean, it was very centered towards Taekwondo, so it was very serious, but it wasn't as much of like helping little kids, grow kind of thing. It was a little bit more direct. Yeah.
Winning in a competition or winning in a battle or a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, and he sponsored a ton of the tournaments too. So it was just part of that aspect, Yeah. I remember getting my butt kicked in the first competition I went into. I got bronze, but
I got bronze in my first tournament, and I cried because I was so happy.
Yeah.
Not because I was disappointed, but because I actually got a medal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was happy to get the medal, but I was still sore.
Yes. So how do you think KOMA is different than maybe other activities?
Well, it's fully developed. So as we talked about a little bit about the principles and the values behind it, and that's the comparative of a sport versus KOMA, as well as like a kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So, and the only thing I was disappointed at, which was that it was designed to only go twice a week. So
You can go more.
well,
You guys can go more.
so that was the suggestion or whatever. That was what was presented to me, and I went like a minimum of twice, if not 4 times. At your
How
dad's
many times
studios.
do you think the master's son went?
Yeah, you would live there.
6 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. You live there.
Literally.
But it works out. It's you've actually thought it out, which is fantastic, because then there's balance between homework and another sport possibly, because
Burnout.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really easy to burn out. You get super excited. You're going like 4 to 5 times a week, and then after 6 months to a year, you're done. It's also the gymnology. Like you're going for 3 months, you go every day. You're like,
Right. All gung ho.
yeah, all gung ho, and now it's not a lifestyle. And
Yes.
and the biggest thing to lose weight, have just a healthy life in general, is incorporating it in your lifestyle, and not doing too much, and then not like doing it every day. Don't be obsessed, but to integrate it into a habit. And then with KOMA, it's the culture, it's the community, and you can continue that with 2 times a week. And also being a father, oh my goodness, I have no idea how to do more than 2 times a week.
Yeah.
So there's school activities. There's, you need to learn how to swim and all that other stuff. So it's just a really nice balance. And then I can see, like, after you're in the black belt club or something, or you're mentoring, of course you're here more.
Sure.
You're doing, more aspects.
How would you actually? What are you going to do when your son says he doesn't want to go and he's kicking and screaming about going to class?
So I drag him. And
has that happened already?
It has happened once, but also sometimes. Well, he's in preschool, so he gets sick a lot. So you just have to go a different day. Basically a call in, make sure so you guys know he's not coming.
Sure.
And then we go another time. He has like 3 other options.
What if he says, I don't want to go back ever?
Then there's talking to. No, no. Well, you can inspire the kids. It's like, okay, this is all about persuasion. So it's, instead of giving up on it, what do you want your kids to have or do? Yeah. Is it you can focus on the physical activity, you can focus on getting out, getting to know, with other people, and then maybe incentivize them. So I just got kicking pads, and I got the yellow breaking board, which I did not know that non-real boards exist.
They didn't when we were training.
No, they were. You just got a board, and your dad got a brick, and you both broke them.
And he broke it with his head.
He did.
Many, many times.
But I may explain things. No,
You preach to the choir here. You didn't have to live with him.
yeah. Like I said, he's one of my mentors. It's one of those expectations as a kid, and definitely impact on our lives.
So going back to the question, that ultimately,
but
you're not going to allow him to quit.
No,
because the reason why I bring this up, the reason why I'm asking this, because especially today, I hear this all the time. I don't want to push my kid to do something that they don't want to do.
But that's the whole thing. Life is that. Life is, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do something hard. I don't want to I've been up mountains, okay? Like The first 15 minutes of a mountain hike, you're like, nah, this is neat. I'm in nature. And then 20 minutes in, this is unfortunate. I hurt. This is not fun. Yeah. And I've already seen this. It looks the same way as it did the last 15 minutes. And then an hour goes by and you're on top of a mountain and you can see miles away. And that's the purpose. This is the reward. And then you get an awe-inspiring view that makes you little in the world and you get perspective.
Yeah.
And that happens over and over in life.
Yeah.
And that's why honestly the degree program exists in college or whatever. You don't learn half of anything. But you complete a degree and it shows that you did something.
Right.
And that's kind of part of, like Eagle Scout and some of these other programs. It shows that you stuck with it, you can complete something, and you finished. And it proves to the world that you did that, especially on those instances. But the stuff that doesn't get proven or is external to the world is the personal accomplishment. If you can complete something, if you can start something, do something hard, or do it when it's boring or when you don't want to and come out in the end, that's the accomplishment. Yeah. That's what you're going to look back in life and go, I did something. I didn't quit. And a lot of the times you don't want to do it. And, it doesn't matter where it is. As long as it fits your goals and is a skill you want, then, it teaches you to push through. And that's what you need. You need your parents to do that, because as a kid, you haven't practiced pushing through yet. And even my brother has reminded me in life, as you go through different cycles in life and things like that, and you're like, dude, you did a ton of stuff as a kid, like you've accomplished things.
Yeah.
And you need that history in life that you've accomplished things, you've proven yourself you can do it when it gets hard.
Yeah.
And in Taekwondo, there's going to be seasons that you don't want to do it. Or you don't, you don't want to go to the gym. Well, if you stop, I gain weight.
We all would, yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's exactly it. And why not teach your child that lesson as early as possible? Now, that doesn't mean we're going to make them go through horrible pain immediately. Like, no, you ease them into it. And that's why I believe in what we do so much, because we provide a framework of easing these kids into it. Now, if for your son, right, he does his belt testings, belt assessments. We call them assessments, right? He gets up there, performs. It's not like what it was before. But I do that on purpose because I don't want to crush him by having him get up there. And I say, you know what? You're not good enough. Your side kick isn't perfect enough. You got to fix your foot position. Thus, you're failed. I'm failing you. Mm-hmm. What is that going to do for the long term?
Oh, that, and also that's been the amazing thing, especially in like super tykes and things like that, when they're small.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of mention that as you were talking, is like, we've talked a lot about, the past and some of your dad's techniques, but it's nothing like that here. In that there's a lot of encouragement.
Yeah.
And in super tykes, you spend half of the time, just learning to jump and stand in line and, just do an activity together. And then you slip in maybe, kicks or whatever. I also I've noticed the stranger danger stuff.
Yeah. Safety skills. Yep.
Because I can't communicate that to my son. And now it's because he's an extrovert. And I've asked him numerous times, don't talk to strangers. And he's like, they're not strangers. They're humans. and everyone's a friend.
Spoken.
And I'm like,
oh my
goodness.
Speaking like a true extrovert right there. Yeah.
Everybody's a friend. It's okay.
Yeah.
And he will run out to random strangers in the park. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to have to watch you.
Yeah.
But
going back to what you said, though.
But I'm glad.
Yeah. Not allowing your son to stop because basically you can see the bigger picture. But ultimately, you're able to do this because you have gone through things in life that's helped you become more disciplined and able to develop grit. Mm-hmm. And this is what I would love to say to parents of younger children who have that struggle of, I don't want to force him to do anything. But in reality, in my opinion, the reason they don't is because it's going to now cause pain and suffering for the parent.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you have to go through pain and suffering in order to get your child to go to class, to deal with all the complaining and the crying and all that stuff. But in reality, what should happen is we as parents must focus on our own personal discipline first if we want to make our child the most successful in the future. So I think there's a missed factor here, which is you got to focus on your own discipline first, and you have to hold yourself accountable, which means don't let your child dictate the future of your family.
Oh, well, you're the parent, but I mean, there is some pain when it comes, or pain. It's difficult. It's tiring to be a parent.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it's easy to just give your kid an iPhone or a phone or a tablet or the TV and like, okay, turn it on and we don't have to do anything. But none of that teaches your kids anything. And it doesn't let them bond to you, and so turning off the TV and doing something with them is going to, not allow you to watch something on your phone or cook or do, whatever you wanted to do. But that's what, the bonding thing that you need to do with your kid. Now, when it comes to, going to Taekwondo, I remember, my dad forcing me to go, to Taekwondo and do things, even Boy Scouts. I didn't want to go to Boy Scouts at times and do things, but I learned so much there. And then I became an Eagle. I became a quartermaster in Sea Scouts, and then I became a Scout exec under 21, and then I was an executive for the council here at Heart of America, and I was a full council member, so I made $1 million decisions, led a whole program, stuff like that, as an under 21.
All because your father didn't allow you to quit.
Yes.
And as we wrap this up, so I just want to kind of pull this all together, especially for any parents listening or watching. You first mentioned that my father was a mentor in your life that you still remember because of the high expectations he placed on you.
Yes.
Which then means that was the harder route for him. It would be easier for him to say, hey, great job, even though your sidekick's terrible. That's easier to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's harder to say no over and over and over again and fixing your foot position or whatever it may be so then you can perfect your sidekick. Same thing with your father. That wasn't easy for him to force you to go to Taekwondo and Scouts. That was not the easy route. That was the harder route. So then overall, what we have to take away from this is take the harder route so then the future becomes brighter for our kids. And then they're going to talk about us when they become adults and say, wow, it sucked at that time, but now I'm so grateful. Because that's what I say about my father, too. He gave me the discipline and the drive and that productivity thing of don't waste time. Because during that time, he was like, get off your butt and do something. Stop sitting around the house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you ran into a parent or if you know of a parent who's searching on our website and they're just thinking, I don't know if this is for my child or not. And they're just hesitating. What would you say to them?
Well, go to a class. Go in the door. Like, I did not know half of what was going on, or not even half, but like outside the door. Like, I had the pre-commitment of knowing the past, but had no idea what was going on, until I got in the door. And then I was like, oh, look at this, you know, like, wow, you know, not there's the activities, there's the different groups, there's mentors, there's instructors. So there's, you know, like you're like one group will have 2 to 3 instructors basically.
Right.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of attention, which is great. And then everything being well thought out, I was just blown away just because, you know, you have the super tight belts and then the stripes. So, and I told you when I came in, I was like, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to all this encouragement. I mean, like you know, like judo didn't even have belts. They like gave you a white belt. That was you. Right. But yeah, you like, and how you referred it, you know, like you got your belt after it was frayed. If it was going to fall off,
that's right.
Then you could think about testing.
Right.
So yeah.
So you'd say just come, just try the
just
class.
come,
just try it.
Just see and then look at things around it. Okay, you're gonna. Oh, that, and also, my goodness, that was you give your introduction families like first class seats, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's amazing how you're integrated. You feel really special. So go to the website, you know, put in your email, make an appointment, and you know, you get your like name on the TV. You get a special spot to sit. You have plenty of room for like if you want to be an active parent, you have plenty of room to see what's going on, things like that, and then, you know, do something else if you want. So you're integrated, you feel special at the first day, but also not only, you know, we get wrapped up into our own kids, but look around at the different belts, the program, all the other aspects that you're getting when you come here. And this is just because I came in and was blown away with all the different aspects and well thought of the different stages and development that is integrated that I didn't even expect. And you just don't see that until you go in the door. So
last final question. Yeah. We are, I would guess, one of the most expensive extracurricular activities that exist. Why do you still pay for this?
Yeah, well, I'm excited I'm more committed. I've definitely had to try to communicate that to my wife.
Yeah, very common.
You know, because it's easier to see a smaller price tag on a seasonal sport. So this is not a seasonal sport. It's an ongoing thing. And you have a price level. So the higher the commitment, the lower the cost is.
Yep.
So that helps.
Yep.
If you do it month by month, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's going to be much more costly. But if you have that commitment, and I do recommend like at least the 3 belts, because you will go through those phases of like, oh, I'm excited, and then, you know, the initial like, you know, newness wears off, and then it becomes more of, you know, like a lifestyle or a workout habit or something.
3 belts is like 9 months.
Yeah. And that's a good, you know, test the waters kind of level. And you could just prepay that, and then it becomes, you know, affordable. And then, and also it's commitment in that, like, I mean, if you look at how much baseball costs and other
competitive
things,
sports,
like
the travel and all that. And I have a video where I talk about, don't even think about the money, think about the time commitment. Yeah. Your whole weekends are gone.
Oh yeah. So if you compare sport to sport, it's the same, or I think, you know, at least on par, if not, you know, a little bit cheaper than, you know, what baseball gloves cost and uniforms and all this other stuff. And you have so I would say it's cheaper and constant versus like a big hit on, you know, some of the team sports. Yeah. But you know, it's all based on, you know, how long you want to commit to it.
Sure.
So there's kind of an average on it. And then I did notice, because I am planning long term for my kids. So I want, especially, I want them both to be, like young mentors eventually, on that level. And there's a discount, as you mentor, I believe.
And we have siblings. We give incentives for siblings as well as last thing.
So it can't be too. It's not. Yeah. It's really. There's a shock, but it's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's an investment. I mean, that's why I really tried to help parents understand this is not just spending on. If you remember Chuck E. Cheese, so it's tokens on Chuck E. Cheese. This is not just for entertainment, right?
Yeah.
It's an investment in your child's future. And we do not charge the lowest rates compared to even other martial arts schools because we invest in our instructors. Mm-hmm. Like you said, we have many of them, and we want them to live lives of not poverty. And I want them to be, taken care of. I want to take care of my people. And ultimately, I want to have the best. We have less than a 2% acceptance rate of outside instructors trying to teach here. Less than 2%. Wow. So it's not easy to find them, but once we do, you're getting the cream of the crop. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to also seeing you in class soon.
Yeah.
Pick it back up again.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.